Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the AutoTrader Podcast, South Africa's #1 motoring podcast. My name is George Mienie, and as usual, joined by none other than Wandile Sishi.
Yeah, back in the house. Well, back in the studio this time. But yeah, glad to be here.
Where does your surname come from?
It's South African, technically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But my father has found that there are some Sishis in Japan, in America.
Okay. Because I thought sushi.
Close, but no relation. It's actually not from Japan. Yeah, it's definitely from here.
Okay, interesting. Sishi. Very nice surname, though. Okay. Nonetheless, we're not here to talk about Wandi's surname. We're here to talk about reliability.
Yeah.
So this is the reliability episode, and the numbers are in from a JD Power survey, which is an American survey.
Correct, yeah.
And it ranks the most reliable car brands or vehicle brands, not only car brands, based on 30,000 consumers.
Yeah, so huge base, and they ask basically across the board, so you can kind of trust what they say.
Well,
or the results, that is.
We'll get into the mechanics of how they get the data a little bit later on, because I've got some thoughts on that. But, we'll find out which brands rank below the industry average and what is considered in the ranking. And then something I've never seen before, which is EV reliability, which is quite interesting. And then what does that mean for the South African car shopper?
Yeah, big questions there. And I think, we see it all the time on Ask AutoTrader. Reliability is such an asked about thing. So now at least we can give a little bit more of insights on which brands are reliable.
Most reliable.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So what is on top of your list when it comes to reliability issues, Wendy?
On top of so the thing that I've noticed personally is that I think a lot of cars are reliable anyways. I think we've come to a point where technology and vehicles don't necessarily break down, but there'll just be some certain things such as quality that may impact that. That could be quality of the handle on your door, which may become kind of creaky after a while. That is a point that could be knocked. Could be infotainment that's not as touchy as you would like it to be. So I think those are the kind of the factors which I would sort of look out for when I'm looking for car in reliability, not necessarily just the engine and mechanical issues.
I think a lot of people, view reliability through a lens of mechanical reliability.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, let's be honest, with the world of EVs in the future,
it's going to be the case.
Mechanical reliability problems are largely going to go away.
Yeah.
You're not going to have mechanical reliability problems. So I'd be interested to see whether over the decades, whether mechanical reliability was high in this JD Power survey and has come down.
Yeah. Well,
have you had a look at the previous results?
I have. So one of the things that's kind of noticed by them is that's the area which is specifically mechanical and sort of engine problems is the one where the changes are not changing much anymore, but they did have a big jump, back in the day, about 10 years ago.
Jump down,
yeah. Whereas now, the things that are coming up the most are with regards to comm systems or driver aids or the infotainment. So that's where people are really seeing issues with their car and finding these little pain points which are ruining the experience essentially of ownership.
Well, Wandile has studied this report in detail, and it was conducted for 32 consecutive years, I believe. Yeah. And it looks at number of problems per 100 vehicles by owners over the last 12 months. And they do this annually, right?
Annually, yeah. They have not stopped, yeah.
A study found that vehicle dependability is at an all-time high. Now, we've been saying this for a long time.
We have,
there's no bad cars.
Not anymore.
The problems aren't as big as they used to be. When you get stuck on the side of the road with a carburetor injector issue, or even not carburetors don't have injectors, but a carburetor issue or an injector issue or a fuel problem or running out of fuel. It's your own fault, but.
But it's always mechanical. It was never, there was always a problem then. There was always something to look out for.
Well, the problems today are not going to put you on the side of the road.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It says a lot about where cars have become. And, when people are looking for a car, I don't think mechanical reliability is something that you can use anymore to knock a car down. That's why test drives are so important, because what you're now feeling and touching is the exact thing which may, destroy the reliability or the dependability of your vehicle.
Which is then design issues. So problems owners reported with 2018 year model cars, so 3-year-old cars, declined by 10% from last year's report. So older car and the problems have declined.
So I think there's two things that could be in play there. One, people weren't driving as much in the last year.
Pandemic,
so, yeah. So sort of, those issues coming up were probably less frequent because they do stick that 3 years as a constant.
Yeah.
And I don't think there has been a huge change in a year's time in terms of, the new 2018 year model vehicles. So I think it's just people playing with the car as much as before.
So some of the numbers, the industry averaged 121 problems per 100 vehicles, down from 134 problems per 100 vehicles in 2020. So,
significant jump.
So yeah, it's quite a big jump. I mean, that's a jump of 13 points.
Yeah, around the 13 points exactly.
Yeah.
And we see year on year is that the gaps are relatively small. So either cars have become extremely dependable, or it could be one of the two, variables such as the pandemic, which is impacting that.
Well, this is on a consistent decline, right?
Yeah.
So
it's getting better and better.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. So the differences now between most of the brands apparently are very slight.
Yeah.
Not very many. And if you actually have a look at the problems per 100 vehicles, Lexus ranks right at the top with 81 problems per 100 vehicles. So the lower the score, the better. 81 problems per 100 vehicles, and the next one is Porsche with 86 problems per 100 vehicles. So you can see the gap there is only 5 points.
5 points, yeah. And it squeezes up a little bit more towards the mid.
Yeah.
It just seems like I guess the number one ranked car versus the least ranked car, there's a serious gap there. And that's where consumers need to look out for those little differences, because that could potentially impact you when you.
Well, I mean, is it important to look out for those little differences? Because are they little? And do they matter to you? So if the volume control is out of reach, but you love the car's leather interior, is the volume control really a problem?
Well, I think that's why the what's it called? The sample size is so huge of the reports. It's because they want to make sure that it's fair, including those little nuances. So a little nuance when you're having a huge, pool, if it's big, then that's something that you should note. Because more than not, it's going to be, it won't destroy your experience of the vehicle.
Yeah, but you won't know this in the study, because it's really just numbers of problems.
It is just numbers, yeah.
So it could be a small problem, could be a big problem.
I mean, from 81 to some of these cars are sitting on 200. That is something that is definitely notable.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just a volume thing. No, I think that's something that, you should consider, and that's why test drives are important.
So the study researches 177 specific problems that may occur across a list that is grouped by 8 major vehicle categories. So those categories are infotainment. Are there problems with infotainment? Communication and navigation systems. I've got big issues here.
Yeah, I know. You told me a few times.
Yeah. Although my Jaguar I-Pace, the navigation is pretty good. I'll tell you why I think in a second. The heating system. Ventilation and air conditioning, so heating and cooling, engine and transmission, controls and displays, volume control problem, driving experience, exterior, interior, and seats.
Yeah.
So which brands around the world generally are scoring highest on this list?
Consecutively for a few years now, the Asian brands have topped the list of dependability. We're talking Toyota, Kia, Lexus, Hyundai. They seem to be the brands that consistently have been ranked very high in terms of dependability. Now, I don't think dependability is the same thing as quality, and I think that's something that's really important to note, is how dependable based on the quality that you're getting. It should be, that's kind of a fair factor that's understood.
Yeah.
And I think the markets, or the Asian markets, is a lot more competitive than, say, the German markets, where brand equity has such a huge hold on people.
So is this a dependability study or a study just with problems per 100 vehicles?
It's a little bit of both. I think because the cars are all relatively new, you're not going to see anything that's going to be like insane. If something on if a car has a perception of having high quality and this thing is really like it's completely broken, that's going to be a serious issue to a car where from the moment you bought it wasn't as sturdy, and it's shifting a little bit now.
Well, I mean, look at the middle of the road rankings, which is BMW and Mercedes. Mercedes is 15th on the list, ranks with 122 problems per 100 vehicles.
Yeah. Versus BMW's 108.
You just like BMW.
I do, but something to note there is the industry average is really important.
It's 121, yes.
Yeah.
So industry average is 121. But does that make a Mercedes-Benz a car
dependable.
that's less dependable or not reliable? I don't think so.
I don't think it makes it unreliable, but it makes it less reliable.
No, I think it just makes it probably more annoying.
Well, this is across,
or less annoying.
Like we said, it's across 177 different things. So,
Like you can't tell me that having a BMW where, in your opinion, the volume control is out of reach.
But it's not about out of reach. It's about how dependable it is. Is it going to break off? Is the volume button going to break off? Not necessarily if it's out of reach. It's not an experiential.
Not an experiential study. It's a problem study. So there has to actually be a problem with the car.
It has to be a problem. Like it's not working anymore.
Okay, I get you. Okay, all right. But then it doesn't make it mechanically unreliable, because we said mechanically unreliable cars are on the decline.
That's one of the things that counts. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily, because Mercedes 122 does not make it mechanically faultier than the first rank car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just other things on the list which may have not been as great as potentially the engine in that scenario.
Okay, so this is not about annoying things in the car. It's about the stuff that's actually broken.
Correct.
In the car. So Porsche has 86 things that are potentially a problem in 100 vehicles.
Per 100 vehicles, yeah.
And those could be small things to big things, right?
Correct. They don't really tell us that it's, it would be nice to see where's the engine only, and then we'll be able to, give a report on that.
But they don't.
Yeah. So right now, the nice thing is JD Power does have a few reports for different things.
Yeah.
So if you really want one, I'm sure they can, I'm sure they have one for it. But this is specifically on these 8 categories.
Well, let's get into technology and body type. So recent year models rarely have mechanical failures. Is this according to the study?
This is according to the study.
And the biggest problems are infotainment aids and common tools, which remain the biggest issues. So I think that infotainment is one of my biggest bugbears in most cars today. Especially those cars who don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And in some cars, the Apple CarPlay doesn't
work well. I'm having that. I had that problem a week ago. I was driving my girlfriend's Suzuki Jimny, and it has Android Auto, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it doesn't really tell you why. And it's kind of annoying, because at the time we were traveling and I needed it for the navigation. So I can completely vouch with that. That's definitely going to be my biggest pet peeve.
And it seems to come out in the study that infotainment aids and communication tools are the biggest issue. I mean, I have a big problem with Bluetooth in cars. Even in my iPace, one of the small annoying factors is sometimes the Bluetooth doesn't connect.
Yeah.
And you're driving, and now you want to make a call, and you push connect phone, and it doesn't connect.
Exactly.
Then I have to switch the car off. Switch it back on. So which means I've got to pull, if I really want to use the Bluetooth, I've got to pull to the side of the road, switch the car off, switch it back on. And then I haven't changed anything on my phone.
Yeah.
Okay. And the phone connects.
It kind of reminds me of a conversation that you were having with me a while back about bespoke systems versus these sort of aids, these Android Autos and CarPlay. Do you have a preference with regards to if you had to purchase a car?
Well, I'm on the fence. If you asked me this question 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said car manufacturers should not make software because
you've actually said it before.
They're not good at it. Okay, but when a car is built from the ground up, the Jaguar I-Pace is an example. It's got its software issues. Okay, but it really, in all, it works well. There are niggly issues which they need to deal with, which are software bugs, which I'm pretty sure that you've experienced on your phone as well, software bugs. So you can't beat them up for it. So I think manufacturers have come a long way to be building their own software. Yeah. And it's better to have a hardware platform with bespoke software on it nowadays versus 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you drive a car from 5 years ago, the software is clunky.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to always say bespoke systems are better, but
you now flipped.
I wouldn't say I've flipped. I think some bespoke systems are just not as good as what an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay system will do.
Yeah.
But in other cases, it's the bespoke system is going to be worse, but the price is significantly lower, and I'll just go for the the driver aid or the CarPlay.
Well, I mean, I've never driven a car
Yeah.
that has a bespoke navigation system that works properly, with the maps updating over the air and giving you alternative routes, and but my Jaguar I-Pace is the first navigation system that I'm actually using in the car.
That's bespoke.
It's bespoke. It's
like a Jaguar
Jaguar
system.
thing.
It's not like your phone.
I mean, obviously they're getting the maps and the data from third parties, but
of course.
Yes, it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but I
prefer the bespoke system.
The bespoke system, because the screens are so nice.
They're made for the car. They're made for the what's it called, the resolution.
And the maps actually work.
Yeah.
When you do a search for somewhere,
the
data actually comes up, but that's because the car's got a SIM card inside, so it constantly
updates.
I think uses the internet.
Yeah.
Whereas in the days of old, you had the software loaded on the car, and then would become outdated.
It's a new road. It's a
problem. But anyway, in saying that, in this JD Power study, people often judge a car based on their phone.
Yeah,
connecting with that car.
I can completely believe that. Also, just the experience of your mobile phone versus specifically your entertainment and information apps on your phone versus on your vehicle. I know many people who don't even use their bespoke system. They just use they Google
Well,
Maps.
I haven't up to now. I've always used my phone with the cars that I've had.
Exactly.
Never used their navigation systems. So first time that I am.
Yeah. So people are comparing that experience versus kind of what they're getting in these cars now. And is it fair? I don't think it matters. I think you need to anticipate the fact that people will be doing that anyways, and you need to make a system that works.
That's the point. Make a system that works.
Exactly.
That doesn't just.
It should feel seamless, yeah.
It should feel seamless.
Yeah.
So sedans proved to be the most reliable vehicles, averaging 111 problems, whereas buckies are the worst, with 130 problems per 100 vehicles.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see or understand why. Personally, I've never driven that many cars, so I wouldn't be able to be like, I can believe that. But the numbers don't lie. A journalist would be able to tell us why people might feel that way.
Well, I mean, I think the data will be able to tell us. And then SUVs came in between sedans and buckies at 122 problems per 100 vehicles. So it's very interesting that buckies ranked with some of the worst experiences for consumers.
Yeah, I wonder why. Do you think it's because buckies are taken off road and over time they kind of pushed to the edge? Yeah,
maybe.
Could be one of the factors.
But most buckies, I mean, especially in South Africa, are really just driven on the tarmac.
That's true. So, yeah.
It's
the numbers don't lie. Yeah, now we know.
So let's talk about Tesla, because Tesla, although there are numbers for Tesla, they're not officially ranked in the JD Power study. Why is that?
So this is so before we get into that, so they ranked fairly low.
Well, let's get into that, because I've been in both the Tesla as an EV.
Yes.
Love the Tesla. Let's not beat about the bush. Absolutely love the Tesla, right?
Okay.
However, now that I have the Jaguar I-Pace, and it is not just because it's a Jaguar I-Pace, it's just the EV that I'm living with right now. I've driven the Mini SE, and I've driven the BMW i3.
Yeah.
And and I've got the same feelings for the i3 and the Mini SE, but the Jaguar I-Pace's build quality is just far superior to the Tesla's build quality.
I think that's globally people have been saying the same thing. They just say that the quality of the Tesla is not up to scratch.
So how many problems did Tesla have per 100 cars? Based
176, which is fairly bad. And in the if
176. Oh my word, my friends are going to beat me up for this. Land Rover is the only one that ranked worse. No, I lie.
And Alpha.
Jaguar actually ranked worse at 186, but probably not the EV.
No, this is and also once again, this is not about quality. It's about
problems.
Yeah.
So exactly, reliability.
And to your point, to your question of why Tesla essentially is not ranked, it's because essentially JD Power was not allowed to access the database of the required amount of vehicles. So they need at least, I think it's, I can't remember how many vehicles, but there's a certain criteria that each brands need to hit, and just because they didn't have access to the enough number of consumers, they couldn't really rank them. Wouldn't be fair.
So, I mean, I'm not 100% sure of this theory, but it sounds to me like JD Power gets hold of the OEM, gets a list of consumers, probably based on consumer consent as well, gets a list of consumers, rings them up, does the survey, and then comes back with a result.
Well, that's, you would have to ask them and find out what their methodology is, but that's considering it's 30,000 different consumers.
I would imagine that that's the only way to get them.
That's the only way you do it quickly and fairly and efficiently.
So the reason Tesla wasn't ranked was because Tesla...
they didn't give access, yeah.
Well, yeah. The official thing is that it could not officially rank Tesla among the brands because the electric vehicle manufacturer doesn't grant JD Power permission to survey its owners. Now, you can't stop JD Power from surveying owners. I mean, if I'm a Jaguar I-Pace driver and somebody rings me up and says, "Oh, how was your Jaguar I-Pace?"
Yeah,
it's up to me to give that opinion, right?
Yeah.
Like Jag can't stop me.
But then you wouldn't get 30,000 within a year. And
I think that's the problem. Is they want access to the OEM's database of car drivers, and Tesla's not giving them access. Why? Do they know the build quality is not great?
No, I think they have a policy with regards to that. I don't think Tesla is trying to prove anything with regards to dependability. I don't think it's a metric that they're trying to hit, whereas some other manufacturers could use this as a marketing tool to say, we're more dependable. So I think it's more along those lines. I don't think it's necessarily the cars are less dependable.
Well, I mean, if you look at just the number of problems at 176,
yeah.
I would say they may be less reliable from a small issues like we were talking about before, because the electric motors aren't going to break, the batteries aren't going to break. So this is more kind of like a door handle or like you say, the panels that aren't fitting together properly, or
stitching
or those kinds of things. I mean, they were surveyed, surveys from owners in 35 states. How many surveys did they do?
So I think they only did 15 out of 35, essentially, and that's they needed to be more
than that. So it's not really representative, and that's probably why it's not listed. But it's still across that small sample set, that 176 problems per 100 cars, and if you just put them in the rankings, that would have ranked them. It would have ranked Tesla 30th at 176 problems. Would have ranked Jaguar 186th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I don't think that's the I-Pace, but who knows. And then Alfa Romeo is after that, 196 problems per 100 cars, and then Land Rover is at the bottom of the list with 244 problems per 100 vehicles.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shocker.
I didn't realize that.
It's a little bit of a shock. I didn't expect them to be there. But that's
I mean, I've driven a Land Rover. I didn't have any issues.
I told you I was in a Land Rover 2 weeks ago and it broke down. But that's, that was a really old Land Rover, to be fair. So, yeah.
Well, it's been a fascinating discussion, Wandie, and that brings us to the end of our AutoTrader Podcast. And my name's George Mienie, and that's been Wandile Sishi. And we ask you to join us for the next AutoTrader Podcast. Cheers.